Star family, hello, welcome. It's time for another lunar cycle video. This month's going to take a look at the lunar cycle starting with the new moon February 1st, 2022 in the stars of constellation Capricorn. Conjoined to Saturn too, and this cycle's full moon takes place in the stars of Leo around February 16th then it'll be reflecting the light of the sun in Aquarius. This could be a month to make meaningful strides on our spiritual journey. It could be a month to reinvent ourselves, and if we've felt just kind of really in hiding, it could be a month to at least start to feel like we're able to come out of our cave, maybe even come out roaring. It's likely to be a time of confronting our shadows. It's likely to be a time of dealing with obstacles and delays. The systems and structures of society, as well as hierarchical authority, all of these systems are emphasized and empowered by Capricorn and Saturn, where the new moon is. It will give the whole month a flavor of this kind of more heavy feeling. Could be an appetite for security and gain, but the real treasure of this cycle, this lunation, might be in discovering and aligning with and recognizing and deepening our relationship to our innermost selves. So stay tuned, because we're going to dive a lot deeper. You may have noticed that I said this new moon was in Capricorn, and we're using a branch, a school, a style of astrology called True Sidereal. It's called True Sidereal. Sidereal refers to the stars, and true just means it's not approximate. It's this system is trued up with the actual stars themselves. So it's also called constellational or astronomical astrology. It's different to mainstream forms of astrology, so a lot of people in the mainstream world are talking about an Aquarius new moon. But the new moon here is backed by the stars of constellation Capricorn. For more information on this kind of astrology, visit my website, oneskyastrology. Or do begin to educate yourself, do your due diligence, and learn about constellational, astronomical, or true sidereal astrology. So let's break this down. We're looking at the alignments here for the new moon. And the first thing I see, the first thing I notice, is that all the planets are on one side of the nodal axis. We have the entire arrangement of planets in between the north node here in Taurus and the south node here in Libra. And in between them, on the other side of the heavens, we have absolutely no major planets. So in this particular configuration, all of this is understood to incline things toward the spiritual, towards that inner alchemy, towards the invisible world of psyche and soul, and likewise to incline things away from the material, from wealth, from gain, from luxury, and the tangible world. This is called Kala Amrita Yoga, and I think that if a planet is having an effect at this time, let's take the famous Jupiter and wealth. So Jupiter can bestow material wealth. Jupiter correlates with the acquisition of tangible assets. But it can also bestow spiritual wealth. It can also confer intangible assets. And if a planet has an effect under this influence, this Kala Amrita Yoga, which will be in until 23rd of April, if a planet has an effect this month, it's going to be tilted towards the inner, invisible, more psychological or spiritual benefit or detriment of it. The whole thing just leans, all situations emerging from astrological correlation become compelled inwardly. So let's take a look at where the planets are. We do have Sun and Moon here in Capricorn, flanked by Saturn, ruler of Capricorn. This is what's going to give the whole cycle its main flavor this month. We have the inner planets, the personal planets, Mars, Venus, and Mercury, with Pluto in Sagittarius. Jupiter is transiting constellation Aquarius. Neptune is at home in Pisces, with Chiron and with dwarf planet Eris. And Uranus is moving through Aries. The North Node has passed the Pleiades, moving in a contrary direction to the planet. So it's been in Taurus quite some time and moving toward Aries. And the South Node has entered Libra. So let's take a look at the new moon. What we have is the Sun and Moon in Capricorn, and very closely aligned with the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn. So what is Capricorn? Capricorn is a constellation that neither the Sun or Moon are understood to do very well in. It has to do with the collective. It has to do with society. It has to do with our career, what we offer, how we have value to the collective, and how we fit in. It has to do with the structures and forms of things. Capricorn has to do with hard facts, the physical world, things that don't bend or move easily. It's mature, it's patient, it's disciplined, it's responsible. Capricorn erects and enforces boundaries. Capricorn exercises judgment. It respects tradition. It also respects the ancestral. It makes laws. And by laws, we're talking about laws that are created. Saturn and Capricorn make laws. And we talked last month about natural law and the influence of Sagittarius as opposed to Cap. And in Sagittarius, we recognize what laws are already existent, like gravity. And so we'll say that's a natural law. But in Capricorn, we define legal codes and social structures. We have man-made law. So a little bit of a lower tier, cosmically speaking. Capricorn is correlate to authority, social authority, personal authority, all kinds of authority is Capricorn. It's concerned with society, it's concerned with the social fabric, it's concerned with what brings people together, and for that reason it rules social conditioning and it rules conformity. How do you fit in with the herd? This is Capricorn's question. It governs shame, guilt, fear, burdens, and obstacles. It has to do with repression, suppression, oppression, and basically the action of Saturn and Capricorn is to move inward. It's to withdraw. It's to contract. So this is where we get the shame, the guilt, the fear. All of these are very contracting feelings. And all of these are sort of elements of the Capricorn shadow. It's a pretty long shadow. We have punishment, and I mentioned obstacles, I mentioned delays, I mentioned you just have a lot of adversarial conditioning. You have a lot of adversarial conditions, and this is how Saturn and Capricorn teach us. So we'll explore that a little bit. With it, we have the dark side of all that emphasis on the social fabric. So things like nationalism, patriotism, totalitarianism, the whole spectrum. You have this emphasized. The energies of those things are emphasized by Saturn and Capricorn. They're empowered by them, and we could see those expressions this month. And we're seeing all of this Capricornian activity setting the tone for the whole cycle with the new moon here. And we have Saturn closely conjoined. He's in his stars, which he's resonant with, and the whole thing's taking on a very strong flavor. And Saturn is known to be an old devil, like I said, a real adversary, and he's very slow moving. He's very cold, and so this is going to impart this very heavy Saturnine Capricornian flavor to this whole lunar cycle. We also, from Sun and Moon, have a sextile to Chiron in Pisces, and this is indicating an opportunity for deep healing, an opportunity for healing that we may have to lean into. We may have to choose to engage that option, but it's certainly built into the difficulties. It'll be built into the obstacles as a chance to confront and resolve our traumas. And we also see a square from Sun Moon to Uranus in Aries. And this is great because the Uranus-Saturn tension is a great balance. It's a great balance to an overabundance of Saturnine energy. We have this Uranus influence, and Uranus is our freedom. Uranus is individuality. It's our eccentricity. It's our genius. It's what makes us unique. It's what makes us individuals. Saturn, on the other hand, is indicative of conformity, groupthink, systems, structures, rank and file, falling in line and doing what you're told. So as structures and hierarchies and limitations become emphasized this month, there can at the same time be an urge to define or redefine ourselves. This is Uranus in Aries. Perhaps even our goals or our intentions, maybe even our motivations in a core sense. And we'll spend this whole month, this is really interesting to me, we'll spend this whole month with the lunar nodes in the axis of Taurus, Libra, and emphasizing Venus and her relationships very, very highly this month. So I'm really happy to see that Venus is making auspicious relationships. She's making a trine to Uranus, always good to see, and a sextile to Jupiter, that is also just lovely, and a conjunction to Mars. And the conjunction to Mars, it goes either way. It actually goes both ways. It comes with some really, really strong positive qualities, and some inherent difficulties too. We'll look at that a little later as they get closer to each other. This cycle we'll see an exact conjunction. So basically how this all breaks down is that in spite of the social restrictions and the strong Saturn energy here, an empowered Venus often correlates to making moves. And the kind of moves that we're able to make could be social moves, could be financial moves, could be romantic moves, Venus is here in Sag, very philosophical set of stars, empowered by a Pluto-Mercury conjunction, giving depth to our mind, to our logic, to our analysis, our analytic capacity will be great this month. The depth and the breadth and the scope of what we're able to encompass could be greatly expanded. So while there are all these, yes, heavy Saturnine energies, there are abundant blessings this month. If we know where to lean and how to apply our agency, our pressure, I think it could be a really good month, considering it's a Capricorn season. So when we put all this together, what I see is that Kala Amrita Yoga is going to tilt things toward the spiritual. And where Saturn, the main actor in this moon, in many ways the main actor this month, has an outer side. This Saturn has an external side expressed as things we experience. We experience hierarchical structures. We experience orthodoxies. We experience corporations, organizations. What will likely be emphasized this month, however, and where we could lean in and gain ground, is the internal manifestations. And these are attitudes, these are intentions, these are things like, the discipline, the patience, the restraint that Saturn shows us how to harness, how to master. Forbearance, dignity, reservation, conservation, saving and storing away for the future. Just basically taking a mature sense of responsibility. These are the inner strengths of Saturn. And this is actually the way Saturn teaches, is to set up obstacles which give us the opportunity to grow, manifest, harvest, and enjoy the fruit of our own discipline. And this is how we become an authority in something, through discipline. This is the journey of Saturn. So this is the flavor of this month. The cultivation of Saturnine attitudes is going to go a long way this month, especially since Saturn has a tendency, and Capricorn has a tendency, to manifest obstacles, but also karmic debts called in, punishments, delays, things we've mentioned already. It is true that delightful Venus, who is Saturn's only friend, really, and her auspicious relationships this month set up a possibility of using this phase of dour circumstance, obstacle, and delay, with this emphasis on conformity to exercise those qualities of truth, of love, of freedom, in order to adapt ourselves and maybe even solidify a new sense of self in the process. And, this is really what a North Node in Taurus is all about. It's about a collective journey towards, sure, stability, security, all these Taurian values, but more than anything else on an individual level, we're collectively experiencing as a shared individual movement towards greater self-appreciation. And that's where the nodes really work together, because here the relationship with others, signified by Libra, and the higher principles signified by Libra, have to work together. And so they imply a higher principled relationship, but in Taurus it becomes with ourself, and the principles become love and appreciation, and having a sense of security in ourself, a sense of contentment in ourself, a sense of just, there's no better word than love. That's why Venus is considered that goddess. I do, before I move on, want to say a little about this Pluto-Mercury conjunction. also in Sagittarius. It's definitely indicating a deep connection between the mind's function of thought, language, and logic, symbolized by Mercury, and the sort of untamed, potentially untamable territory of the unconscious mind or soul, signified here by Pluto. So this brings them together. And the interesting thing about that is that Mercury is pretty highly organized, and Pluto is representative of a kind of wild no man's land, a real unruled kind of territory within consciousness. It's very free of conventional constraints. It's free of social conventions, conditions. It's quite free of morality. Pluto is when isolated, we can see that Pluto is very amoral. It's not necessarily immoral. It's just amoral. It's immortal, Pluto. It's the lord of life and death, and it's correlate to the unconscious part of us that survives life and death, to be reborn. Some people call this a soul. Some people call it a mind stream, or just that immortal spark of the divine within us. And Pluto is transcendental, and it's connected to realms both within and outside of time. So this is going to take the mind. Collectively, we could have experiences where the conscious mind, signified by Mercury, is just able to tackle these deeper topics. Yeah, we talked about that, but time and the limited are actually Saturn's domain. Time and discrete boundaries are Saturn's. And this Pluto-Mercury connection could manifest as an ability to see deeper into and even through circumstances that are affecting us, even as they prove to be somewhat difficult or of the nature of challenge. So I want to indicate that if things are in your face this month, try to understand them. Try to understand them from that higher point of view, that Sagittarian, that bird's eye philosophical point of view that sees the big picture and your own place within the pattern of it all. It could really be a great buffer against some of the Saturn Capricorn energies that may arise. Yeah, this new moon sets up a lunar cycle as the seed of that cycle. This new moon chart is like the natal chart of this lunar cycle. And what looks like it might ripen and blossom is likely going to be expressed in terms of challenge and restriction. Nonetheless, there are evident blessings, ample insights and strengths available to us. Spiritual growth is favored. Healing is possible, and the cycle holds the opportunity to redefine ourselves. We're going to look at that in the coming phases of the moon. The cycle holds the opportunity to redefine ourselves relative to the structure of society, this emergent structure of society, and the needs of the collective. This cycle is going to be about, we're going to rub up against, we're going to confront, and we're going to confront the needs of the collective as its own entity, as its own thing. The group think, the momentum of the choices that we've made as a human collective, and the consequence. Big Saturn word, big Capricorn word could be front and center themes this month. So let's take a look at the waxing quarter moon. This is the first square that the moon makes on its journey around the heavens. The moon will be in Aries for the waxing quarter with Uranus, and the sun will be in Capricorn with Saturn. So, as the collective is emphasized by Capricorn, naturally we may feel inwardly, moon, an ego need to recognize ourselves as individuals, correlate with Uranus in Aries. And this sets up a fundamental tension, a little bit of equation to balance, and fitting together the needs of the group with the needs of ourself ourselves could be good. Finding that balance so that both are honored could be a real key to unlocking the potential of this cycle. And I really notice that the emphasis on Sag and the power here is intensifying. It's deepening with all the personal planets in Pluto here. This really could be a time when personal magnetism, our natural charisma, runs really high. I want to caution everybody therefore, to watch out for Sagittarius's tendency to argue, to try to overwhelm other people with a viewpoint, convincing or converting them, attempting to anyway. This could play into the Sun-Saturn thing with when we're confronted with groupthink or confronted with conformity. But actually, I see it more likely due to this trine to Moon from Venus-Mars, that it will play into the development of new patterns of selfhood. That all of this fiery, convinced, very like zealous energy. My advice straight up would be keep it to yourself. Take that inspiration and just make the change in your life that you need. Don't try to butt heads with the big ram of society, unless you want to go there. Make sure that issue that you're going to butt heads on it could be your hill to die on, because society and groupthink, the collective, is very empowered right now. So I want to caution on those sort of two energies kind of coming from different directions, maybe a little conflict of interest, you could say. But of course, coming to understand and respect ourselves is what this is really all about. Recognizing those positive qualities and having a hope and optimism. These are Sagittarius's words. We could feel really good about our goals. We could feel really good about our intentions, who we are, who we could be, our potential, our ability to meet those goals and fulfill that potential. We could feel upbeat. It's highly supported this cycle, optimism, especially early in the cycle at the time of the waxing quarter. And that Uranus-Moon conjunction is very nicely resonant with the full moon, and it's preparing us, sort of priming us for the alignment to come. And we'll take a look at that now. We'll look at the full moon. We're looking at a full moon, 16th of February. So the sun's in Aquarius, and that's a big shift from Capricorn. It's one of the major juxtapositions for neighboring signs in the zodiac. They're not always as different as Capricorn and Aquarius are. Capricorn and Aquarius is a big shift, astronomically speaking, the emphasis and the power shift when we move from constellation Capricorn and its limitations, its conformity, all of the aforementioned. When we move into Aquarius, you see a real future forward, kind of a revolutionary, groundbreaking ingenuity, kind of a genius, a brilliant, kind of higher purpose, higher truth, like really breakthrough, very groundbreaking influence. Original influence, shockingly original, catalytic of change, and an urge to liberate from all conditioning. That's what we see in Aquarius by contrast. So we're changing lanes. We're changing lanes mid-cycle. We're just shifting to a new set of stars, and that shift will actually happen February 14th with an exact change. That date and a 3-day cusp either side. So that week, February 11th to 17th, you can maybe even pay attention, see if you can notice some of the shifting energies. Are they shifting from being slow and not very critical, more conformist, to then like alive and dynamic and explosive and groundbreaking, revolutionary, rebellious, all of these qualities? It's a market shift. The sun is not considered to be strong in Aquarius, but nonetheless, it's important to understand that we're changing directions midstream. The moon is in Leo this full moon. So this is interesting because it's alone from all the other planets. And when the moon's alone, it gets a little lonely. So feelings could be sort of at a high. I mean, emotional energy is always high at the time of the full moon. But that emotional energy, due to the Saturn and the Capricorn stamp, and due to the nature of the isolation of the moon, we could really feel lonely, we could feel heavy, we could feel sad around this time. And there's really not much to be done about that except know that it'll pass. You know, we can certainly connect with friends, lean into ourselves, but you don't need astrology to tell you, like, if you're bored, read a book. We're getting into just kind of practical advice now. We have an almost exact conjunction between Mars and Venus. We're a 1 arc minute from exact, so we do have this Mars-Venus energy happening at the same time of the Sun-Moon energy, the exact alignment of Sun-Moon and exact alignment of Mars-Venus. We do have a very, very close sextile between Jupiter and Uranus. That is always good to see, especially because Jupiter is sharing a constellation with Sun, conjoined by sign, and Uranus is the ruler of both. The sextile opens up the possibility of power and gain and breakthrough, ingenuity, all of these things into the realm of Jupiter, which ordinarily could be gain, wealth, promotion, finance, material asset, but this month much more likely to indicate a kind of ability to gain spiritual traction and create, to generate momentum and to make progress, spiritual progress. But the real juice this month is in the axis itself. It's in the Leo Aquarius axis where Sun Moon is, and it's an axis about exploring ego, personhood, selfhood. It's an axis of exploring creatively that which makes us who we are. These are important things to Leo, and when we balance that with Aquarius's humanitarianism, emphasis on society, the higher purpose of things, and all of the other aforementioned Aquarian qualities, when we engage both the Leo and the Aquarius at once, what emerges is that we start to attract the lessons, we start to attract the experiences that teach us how to take charge of our own destiny, our own life, and our own responsibility to the group, responsibility to our interconnectedness. Leo gets very selfish when it's left to its own devices. When we balance it with Aquarius, which is very social, very much about groups and organizations, very much about society as a collective of individuals, we can really give that Leo what it needs. And I should also mention that the pitfall of the Aquarius-Leo axis is that when this axis is emphasized, there's an energy of thinking up new things, new directions, but then not really committing, not really going for it. And it's very important, especially this month, with all of this new kind of fresh personal development, opportunity for balance, depth of understanding, and just good fortune, spiritual progress. I think it's important to act on the new ideas that we have, especially about our self, Leo. How do we want to be? There's always a need with this axis, with Aquarius, Leo, to break free from the past, to disrupt Aquarius prior conditioning. It's usually a conditioning that we have kind of self-identified with. So it'll seem like ourself, like, well, I like chocolate. I'm a person that likes chocolate. I'm a chocolate lover. I now am maybe challenged. Maybe I've developed pre-diabetic condition. I now have to restrict the chocolate for my health. It's these kind of balancing acts that this axis starts to indicate a balance of what we want with what's really best. So I think harnessing these energies for growth could be a little more tricky than in most months, but I don't think it's impossible, and I think there is real progress to be made here. This month could ask us to dig. It could ask us to dig deep and change, the C word. It could ask us to grow. It could ask us to shed skins, things that are no longer serving us. It could ask us to confront them, give them up. Let's move on. And this Leo moon and its mission to take charge of its own destiny in innovative ways, in new ways, is very supported by the whole of the heavens. The Jupiter-Uranus sextile supports this. The Venus-Mars conjunction supports this. And this is indicative of empowerment. Jupiter in Aquarius is indicative of breakthrough. Uranus in Aries, personal breakthrough. The ability to innovate new qualities of self, Uranus in Aries. And then with the Venus and Mars conjunction, we have magnetism, we have influence, we have charisma, magnetism, balance, confidence. You just have confidence. That's the main benefit to what this month is asking for. Is it's going to give you the confidence to be yourself if that Saturnine Capricorn groupthink thing gets to be too heavy. And it's going to give you the confidence to find that balance between your needs and the needs of the group, the needs of society, figuring out where you fit in. Always better with confidence. You'll fit in smoother, nicer, because lack of confidence, it almost generates that kind of weird fit. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So all of this supports the moon in its mission. We're going to take charge this month. We're going to dig deep, shed the old skins, take charge of our destiny, of our lives. Go. And here we have a waning quarter moon, last quarter moon for February 23rd. And moon's in Scorpio and sun is in Aquarius. And the sun is actually on a star, a very powerful star called Fomalhaut. That's Arabic for the mouth of the fish. It's Alpha Pisces Australis, and it means the southern fish. So Fomalhaut, the mouth of the fish. From about February 20th through 24th, Fomalhaut will be in very high effect. The star gives purity, it gives power, and it gives a test of integrity, because purity is not always a good thing. Some people have been and are really interested in purity that is not in the highest interest of the greater good, you could say. So Fomalhaut has a reputation for testing us. It'll test us to see, are we ready to handle the power that it bestows? It does emphasize purity, but will we really act with integrity, and the integrity of our vision? Is it for the good of everyone? This is what Fomalhaut asks. So this could be a time to really lean into personal integrity if you have Fomalhaut activated in your natal chart. And really just for anyone, it could be a great time to lean into personal integrity. Collectively, I think it also signifies a month of new emergence, and I think we could see this in forms of art. I think we could see it in the media. I think we could see it in personal expression broadly. And this waning quarter is a time of reflection. So always the waning quarter, the waning square, is a time of reflection, a time of consideration, to look back and see. We can get a vantage point from here of the cycle and see, well, what worked, how did that go, what's going on. Keep what worked, toss what didn't, wind it down, and prepare for the next new moon. That's the basic template. So this is where the contemplative energies are highest with the moon in this point of relationship to the sun. And when I say contemplative, I mean the energies of consideration. At the time of the new moon, meditative energies are highest. But at the time of the waning quarter, contemplative energies are at their peak. So as the fullness of this Leo moon, this full moon in Leo on the 16th of February, as that starts to wind down, this 23rd February waning quarter moon approaches, we prepare then for the low point on the cycle, that next new moon. We do see some interesting alignments with Venus and Mars in conjunction. They're strongly sextile, closely sextile to Neptune, and square to Eris. So there could be a real dreamy, romantically charged kind of a very strong relationship energy, very strong magnetic energy. Mars and Venus conjoined, they do have their reputation, but this conjunction is also highly useful for balancing the inner gendered energies, keeping that whole spectrum kind of, touching base with all of those aspects of consciousness and personal expression, be they masculine, easily definable as masculine, easily definable as feminine, or somewhere in the gray area in between, some of which is not easy to clearly delineate. All of this, when Venus and Mars are together, just kind of sync up, start working together with each other, because we all contain everything, whether people like to know that and admit it or not. And this inner work this month, this redefinition of self in response to obstacles, delay, this is in keeping with the Kala Amrita Yoga. And this is where we can lean. This is where we can turn our sail. This month we'll continue the Kala Amrita Yoga next month. So all of this is a time of spiritual focus, inner work, cultivating the invisible. And to that end, I wish everybody very well. If you liked this video, then click thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos, subscribe. If you'd like to check out my website, then oneskyastrology.com. Check it out. Leave a comment, share your thoughts. You're on YouTube, so YouTube it up. Star fam, thanks for watching. See you next time.